Fuad here back on Behind the Gloves with another interview. I'm joined by the one and only David Haye. David, how are you?
Right, there's a couple of more David Haye's. I'm not the only one.
Well, before we talk about this fight, I just want to touch on something else. When you have a fighter that's under your eye and goes off like that in a press conference, how do you deal with that? When Derek, was pretty angry at the press conference, how do you sort of deal with that?
You don't. You just let a fighter do what he's got to do. With the grown men, and sometimes a man has something on his chest. I'd rather him get it off his chest than him not get off his chest and explode behind closed doors and do something, get arrested and whatnot. As that happens, you hear fighters doing crazy things. It's banter at the end of the day. He kicks off. He felt he was justified, and I always encourage a fighter to be himself. If you feel a certain way, you say it. It might get you in trouble. You might have to pay a fine. But if it encourages people to tune in, if it's a talking point, if it gets the masses interested, and that whatever comments he made about the Vaseline and stuff was quite funny. I thought it was quite amusing. It got a lot of traction. It was actually trending on social media for a couple of days, and those little soundbite here or there that might be like, what the hell is he talking about, affects the pay-per-view numbers, affects the ticket sales. It gets the message out there. It might not be the message he's trying to get out there, but as long as the people are aware that Derek Chisora is having a fight, and in a press conference he said this, isn't that funny, crazy, disrespectful, annoying? However you chop it up, you're talking about it, you're thinking about it, and boxing is about people caring, about people tuning in, and whether you agree or disagree, it was quite amusing, and it ruffled a few feathers, and I'm sure it's assisted in the ticket sales. Tickets have gone fantastically well for the show, and the pay-per-view, I assume, will be solid also. So when a fighter goes off on a press conference, I normally like it personally, as I've gone off plenty of times. I've said plenty of controversy.
You've been involved with him yourself?
Yeah, but yeah, you had to put a steel cage between us. We was and it was needed. At that time in my life and his life, we kept it real, a bit too real for the masses. So putting a cage between us, was holding the cage, and it was good times.
We spoke to Derek not long ago then, and we spoke about the possible Joe Joyce fight. Frank Warren said that your team didn't want it, and obviously they offered him 6 figures for the fight. Can you give us a bit more insight into that?
He had the fight with Joseph Parker planned, so that's the one we do. The fight got cancelled with Parker, and it was into a time for about a week where there was no official opponent. Although we was talking to Price, and we hoped it would be Price, and it became Price. At one stage, publicly, there was no opponent, and I think they reached out and said, Joe Joyce is available if you need an opponent. But we had the Price fight, which I think makes more sense, and it was an easier fight to make, and it was a fight that Derek wanted.
You've obviously been on the other side as well, managing Joe Joyce. How likely is that fight gonna, if it was to happen, how likely is it to happen, and what's sort of stopping it from happening now?
I think at the moment they're on different paths. Derek's based on Sky box office at the moment. He's having he's doing good numbers. He had the Dylan White fight, which was a great fight, a second fight, and he's got a big fan base here. The people enjoy what he brings to the table, and Joe Joyce is still an unknown quantity. I know firsthand he's very, very good. I've seen him. I signed him out of the amateurs, so I know what he's about. But the masses don't know that yet. I think over the coming months, I think he'll start showing that he's a world level fighter, not another domestic potential future champion. He is, the real deal. And but Derek is at that stage. He's 35. He needs fights that are going to get him to that world title fight. He wants that world title fight, and a fight with Joe Joyce at this stage, I don't believe gets him any closer to a world title fight. But it's a great fight. If the fight does happen one day, you'll definitely get your popcorn ready. Those two fighters who come forward always makes for a toe-to-toe slugfest.
Last question. Alexander Usyk obviously fighting this weekend. Firsthand moving up, fighting the big heavyweights. the experience is there for you. So give us a bit of insight into how you expect Usyk to adapt, and how does he fare against the top heavyweights?
I think Usyk, even if Usyk didn't put on any weight, let's just say he stayed at cruiserweight, he'd still beat 90% of the heavyweights out there. Skill-wise, he showed that in the amateurs. He beat Joe Joyce in the amateurs, who's a massive heavyweight, relentless, comes forward. He had the skill set to outmaneuver him, and that's why I believe he can handle it at heavyweight because of what he did in the amateurs. Was it WSP? Well, no, that wasn't that. It was another one. Yeah, it was
World Series boxing. The one they have just before they can turn pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he had a few fights there and was undefeated in that. So against much bigger guys. So he has shown me as an amateur he can deal with it. As a pro with smaller gloves on, the longer rounds, I don't think it'll be an issue. He's never really shown that he doesn't have an engine. As long as he doesn't try and bulk up too much and he sticks to using his silky skills, I definitely feel he'll have a fantastic heavyweight career. But it's a dangerous proposition to fight guys so much bigger and stronger. All it takes is one shot, a shot that would kind of buckle his legs as a cruiserweight, puts you to sleep at heavyweight. And I realised that in my first real heavyweight fight against Monty Two Guns Barrett. I remember thinking I'm fighting him, and the shots that are whistling past me, I'm thinking, glad that one didn't land because that was a knockout punch. I think he knocked me down at one stage, and I remember thinking I went down and he hit me as I went down. I remember thinking that's different. It's one thing sparring heavyweights with big gloves and head guard, and you can kind of deal with it. But when you're in there with them little gloves on and you're getting clipped from shots, the effects are so much more dramatic. So your defense, strangely, has to be significantly better as a cruiserweight. Your reflexes have to be better at heavyweight than they were even at cruiserweight, because you can't afford to get hit with anything unnecessary unless you're super duper tough, like Evander Holyfield, who just sort of blam but just worked through people. Remember when he won the title against Buster Douglas, he just went at him. He was a supreme condition. He didn't weigh much for that either, so he didn't bulk up for that fight. It was only, I think it was like 207 pounds or something like that. So he was a very small heavyweight. That was when the cruiserweight division was 190 pounds. It went up 10 pounds now. So it's a different weight than it was back then. But it's actually probably more of an Evander Holyfield. It was more impressive Evander Holyfield the cruiserweight division was 10 pounds lighter back then than I think they changed in 2003 or 2004. Trent went up 10 pounds. So I think Usyk's got a fantastic chance of anyone. The only other guy I think has a chance is Lawrence Okolie. I think he's the only other cruiserweight where I saw him thought, yeah, this guy can do it for sure. I think he's the only other guy. I think it's James Man. People think I'm crazy. I think he's actually got a better chance than Usyk has, and he hasn't even won a world title yet. I just think physically, looking at his stature, watching him sparring like likes of Joe Joyce, I'm like, damn, you can do this against big heavyweights, and you're only a cruiserweight, and he can take a dig as well. He can dish it out. I think he will be the third fighter to become world cruiserweight champion, world heavyweight champion. I think he's got a better chance than Usyk. Controversial, but that's how I see it.
We'll keep it out there. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button so you can get notified every time we upload a new video. And we also have a free app available on iTunes and Google Play, so make sure you go and download that. Bye Fight fans.